We all have.
We are, although it still says it's redirecting me to Zoom at the minute. I want to turn the volume down on my phone because I don't want to be, distracting ourselves with ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Well, probably just me at the minute. Put that there out the way.
So for people that will eventually watch it, even if they don't watch it live. Hello.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, some of you might be thinking, who Jim Meskimen is. If you don't know who he is an actor, impressionist, and comedian. He's been in, we've just been going over his career again, and I guarantee everyone's seen him in at least one thing.
Yeah. Some stuff you might not even realize.
Yeah, literally. And we were just talking about it, obviously, as you know, we're predominantly MMA/combat sports based, but we've been wanting to do something like this for a while, and it's just a way for anybody to go and listen to us, basically. I've got people on Facebook, and that's probably just more through Facebook, I suppose. But I've got people on Facebook who won't be into combat sports in any way, shape, or form, but might want to tune into us, kind of thing. And then this just gives them an option because it's something different. Yeah. We can speak about things we've never spoken about with anybody. Well, we kind of did it at Eric Anders, I suppose, because he was in Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Cobra Kai, yeah.
But yeah, it's just, as I say, it's just something to change it up a little bit. We haven't done it before, so.
Yeah, I mean, if no one knows him from any of the stuff that he's been in, they will know him for the video that went viral that we will ask him about, where he put it
was done deep fake, yeah.
Deep fake, yeah. So
yeah, look forward to it. So nice and something different. Something I suppose we get to show a different side of us, man.
Yeah.
So we're going to send it over in a few minutes, but this is our first podcast off the back of our night as well.
Yeah, which was really good.
I think we can both agree it was a roaring success.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. It went better than I thought it was going to. In the run up to it on the day, I was dead nervous about it and stuff like that, and just the way I am.
Yeah.
But when it was all said and done, the crowd was boss. Don't get me wrong, it was a tough crowd, and the comedians all handled it really well. Sometimes it was hard to keep their focus, and they done brilliant with that. And it just goes to show how hard it is, because I know for a fact I couldn't have done what they done that night.
Yeah, I know.
You don't until you push, even though we were still just in the audience, I think until you put a show on of something like that, you can't really appreciate, one, how much work goes in behind the scenes for it, but two, how difficult it must be, because we weren't drinking, so we were fully aware of how difficult the crowd was. It might not be evident if you're having a bevy or something like that. So I'm just glad it went well, and we raised a decent amount of money for a good cause.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, with us, we were thinking, it's a tough crowd, but that's probably not the first tough crowd that they've sort of come up against.
Oh no, it won't be the last, but I don't know. You'd like to think that the crowd go a bit easier on the comedians because it was for charity, but then I suppose that would take away the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
But we've done it. We know we can do it now. We know we've got that. That's better. We know we've got. Yeah, we know we've got that ability to actually pull off and organise a show. And don't get me wrong, we're not saying we've done it all ourselves, because that would be completely disingenuous of us to the comedians involved, who actually did give us a lot of help and advice throughout the planning process. But just doing our first one, I think it gives us a good platform to take to have a little bit more control ourselves. We know to an extent what goes into it now, don't we? So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to doing the next one. It was good, man. It was good. So yeah, there will be another one. We're not sure on the dates or anything just yet. We know the charity, but obviously we're not going to reveal that at this moment. We want to do it all as one big thing, make a big deal out of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of sorting out dates, trying to get our first few acts in our head, at least, set in stone and sort of thing. And so there'll probably be an announcement, I'd say, maybe sometime this month.
Yeah.
So if anyone's waiting for that, that's when it'll be.
I've sent the email over to him.
Locally. I hope I got time right.
Well,
I hope I got the time different right. I'm sure it did.
it was 8 hours, wasn't it, I think.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock now in LA, so as long as he's still in LA, we're fine. And I was just thinking, because I was just thinking about it, like he said he had some traveling to do in that, and I was like, does that mean he's going to be back in LA for this, or is he going to be somewhere else? And just none of us brought it up. But I guess we'll see. I mean, to be fair, I did put on the post 1 p.m. LA time, 9 p.m. UK time, and here he is.
Okay.
So I did get it right. On me, I can tell the time. Right, yeah, I forgot what I was doing now for a minute. Let's go.
Hello.
Hi.
Good day.
How you doing? You okay?
Am I okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just fine. How are you, James?
Yeah, good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to speaking with you today.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, everybody, we are now joined by actor, comedian, impressionist Jim Meskimen. Long and extensive career you've had, so it's a pleasure of ours to be able to talk to you a little bit about that today. I'll let you start this one today, Keaton.
Yeah, sound. So to start off then, when you were starting out, did you look to anyone in particular for like inspiration in that?
Well, my mom, really, Marion Ross, my mother, she's a huge driving force behind my life, as you can imagine. So yeah, I saw just by osmosis, I guess, or just by happenstance, what she did to, at least, in her adult life, to keep her career growing. I saw the amount of hustle it took, and hard work, and persistence. Actors always talk about persistence. It's a huge part of anybody's success in their career, is that they just keep at it. And there's every reason to drop out, or to let up on the gas pedal a bit, and to not exert yourself, or go outside your comfort zone in the arts, right? Because the arts are kind of unexplored territory. It's not like, well, I'm building a carburetor and I know what the specs are, and it's going to have this kind of tolerance and so forth. I sound like I know about cars. I really don't. But it's, it's what kind of character. Maybe nobody's ever seen it before. Maybe I've never played it before. It's always uncertainties, in other words. So there's every reason to drop out and not push through, or not have confidence in what you're doing. So I observed that in my mom, that she just kept going, even though there was a lot of barriers for her. Yeah. She was raising 2 kids as a single mom. She had the limitations of being an actress who's not fabulously attractive. It's not like she wasn't like a model or anything. She had a kind of a big rear end, and this is what she tells me, and so there's a lot of barriers anyway. So I learned from her a lot, and I still, when look to her as a kind of an example to this day of like, let's make something happen. Like, for example, in the Happy Days years, even when she was Marion Cunningham and the show was on the air in the off season, in the what they call the hiatus, she would always do plays. And that's a lot of work. If you've ever done a play, it's like, it's fun, sure, to a degree, but mostly it's a lot of bother. And she did it so that she would stay fresh, so that people would see her, so that she was creating her career. That's a very long answer to a very short question. I'm going to shut up now.
That was great. And you've kind of answered our next question. We did have a question there about your mum, obviously, massive part of Happy Days. I think there was only 2 people who appeared in more episodes than her. So, I figured she was going to be a big inspiration to
Who are those 2 people? Ron and Henry?
I think Henry was one of them, and I can't quite remember. I don't think Ron was the other one, but
Well, it's probably not Ron, because Ron wasn't on the series for the last few years. So maybe it was Tom Bosley.
Yeah, I think it might have been actually. But I mean, she was a huge part and obviously played a big part to the success of the show. So to sort of move on then, what was the first impression that you first really knew that you had like down perfectly?
Oh, well, I don't know that I've ever had one perfectly. That's a pretty tall order. Well, I've answered this question many times and in lots of different ways. Today, I feel like answering it like this. The first, you get validated as an impressionist when people respond in a certain way. And one of the great validations for a professional impressionist is to be booked and paid for something. So the first one that I recall, in California anyway, I worked in New York a lot, but in California, the first thing that I auditioned for, and I thought, I think I can do this voice pretty well. And then they hired me, and then I did the recording for a movie. And it was for FDR, who we call FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the American president during World War II. And at that time, I was about 32. And FDR was substantially older. So I know that I was probably competing against a lot of older actors and a lot of very established voice artists anyway. And so I was very chuffed, as you say, I believe in your country. Very, very pleased and proud that I got the job. And that was like, all right, I must be, my sense about this is right, and it's validating. So you feel like, yeah, okay. Because it's one thing when you do, I don't know, a voice in your show and you get a laugh or you do it for whatever purpose. But when someone says, and we will pay you to be in the movie, like, all right, they're really putting their something. A bunch of people have to agree that that's right, and it's very validating.
Yeah. Get you there, the whole.
And so FDR, I should do FDR for you. So it's like, so FDR, this is a fellow with a very sort of compressed, what we call mid-Atlantic voice. And because of the time and the recording apparatus of the day, he had to speak at full voice like this to make even the most mundane pronunciamientos.
Incredible. It's brilliant.
I think I'm getting better at it. The older I get, I think I'm really getting closer.
Obviously, when you look at it there, obviously the impression's like the main part, but I'm wondering how much time and effort do you put into mannerisms and getting them down?
How much time do I put into study physicality?
Yeah, like mannerisms and that, like actually capturing that character.
Well, I could probably do it more, I think. But I for me, I don't separate into, well, now I'll work on the voice, and now for 15 minutes I'll work on the mannerisms, and now I'll work on the wardrobe. I don't really separate it out that way. It's all kind of a process that for me is just, it's an acting technique. So I try to become that person. Now, when you become another person, you have their physicality, and if you've observed a lot which is very key. I mean, if I've only heard the voice, then I can't obviously extrapolate any of their physicality. But if I've observed them, like Robert De Niro. Okay, so if I'm going to play Robert De Niro, I've seen him a lot. I know he's, physically, he has a certain way of moving. He's not very, dynamic that way unless he's punching someone. So, that all comes with the package. And even when I'm doing something just in front of a microphone and nobody can see me, it helps to sell the impression because, and also I'm just being that person. Basically. So there's no profit in me just putting it through on one channel, just the vocal channel. I try to embody that person, And my friend Ross Marquand operates the same way, when he does impressions. And we've talked about it a lot. It's like you become that guy.
Yeah, Ross. I mean, I've seen Ross Marquand as well, and he's phenomenal as well. So a lot of the voiceover work you've done has been like superhero type things, Marvel, and a lot of DC in there as well. Were you a fan of? Were you into comic books growing up before you got into this line of work?
Very briefly, and really out of desperation, because I remember my family, my mother and my sister and grandma. We took a long road trip from Los Angeles to Saskatchewan, Canada, which is, 800, 900 miles. And I was just desperately bored when we got up there. And so I went into the little country store there and bought some comic books. And those were very important to me because they were such an escape from where I was. And I think that's what people dig about comics is that they're an escape from the world we live in. They're an escape from the limitations of being a human being, who can only, lift a certain amount and can't fly and can't, cut a car in half with a laser beam eyes. So at that point in my life, and I'm talking probably 11 or 12, it was very important to me. I didn't go down that path very far. I had other things I was interested in. I like Mad Magazine a lot. And Mad Magazine doesn't have the kind of fans that obviously that Marvel or DC do. But I was a cartoonist. So for me, I wanted to draw like some of those guys in Mad. And I read also Walt Kelly's Pogo, and I wanted to draw like Walt Kelly. And it was less about being those characters beyond being able to be them and draw them. I didn't want to follow the adventures of Superman or Batman for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not really wired that way. I respect it. It's an unbelievably successful and inspiring art form. And I'm very grateful for all the work I've done, particularly with Marvel in the last few years.
Still sticking with your voiceover career, so it's seen you do a lot of iconic characters and people such as like JFK, Genie, amongst others. Who has been your favorite to voice over the years?
Well, favorite. I mean, I love Robin Williams as Genie. It was fantastic. It's always a pleasure to do it. To put on the earring and those metal bracelets, and it's an honor to play that character. I just did it last month for some other project, so it's still alive. I had a feeling when, or not a feeling, but I had a fright when Will Smith took over the character that would be the end of the Blue Genie, but apparently not. Apparently not. So I love to do that character. It's super fun. I would say that's probably my favorite. Also, people respond to it very beautifully. I think Robin left behind such a wealth of wonderful experiences and memories for people that it's nice to be able to evoke that and make people feel young and stupid again.
It's brilliant, that do you find is that like the reaction you get even for like your other impressions? It's like just sort of like awe and shock, I guess.
Do I find I get shock and awe from my impressions?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that shock and awe is just quite an expression. It's evocative. Brings back memories. I like to lighten people's day. I like to give people a smile. It's big. Yeah. I think it's just what's one thing that we entertainers can do, and it's part of our most important part of our job is to make people feel a little better. So if I can, if I can carry the torch a little bit for Robin and all that amazing stuff that he did, wow, gosh, what a nice privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it difficult to come in and voice a character such as the genie, obviously with having Robin Williams do it, so iconically in Aladdin, and then obviously Dan Castellaneta has done his version of it as well. Is that difficult to come into a role like that sometimes?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always difficult. It's very competitive. First of all, there's quite a lot of people that audition for that part. I think I, had a little good fortune there. Luckily, I did not hear Dan Castellaneta's version. I say luckily because I'm sure I would have been intimidated by it. I know he goes all over the place, and he's just one of the most amazing and successful voice actors in American history. So I just had my affinity for Robin and for his voice and for his performing to carry me through. And I hope, like I do with every audition, that someone will agree that I'm the right choice. And then I just try to do the best I can.
Yeah. You mentioned Will Smith earlier in regards to the genie. Obviously, you appeared in The Fresh Prince seasons 4 and 6. From that, could you always tell that he would go on to have the career that he's had?
Well, gosh, certainly not at first. No, I mean, he was such a skinny kid when I first worked with him. He was playing a college student.
Yeah.
And then in subsequent years, I did notice that he had begun to get into independent film anyway, and like kind of art house kind of films. And outside of the fact that Will Smith has a tremendously dynamic personality and seems to have a hunger for life and for experience, I didn't foresee that. Wow, this guy's really, this guy's going to go to the top. I'm not obviously surprised at all that he did. I was more surprised that he, took that big dip. But it's kind of like, it's hard to predict sometimes. Like, for instance, Ron Howard. I've known Ron Howard for long time, and he left Happy Days to be a director. And if you go back and look at his first actual directed film, which is Grand Theft Auto, no relation to the video game, which he wrote with his dad, Rance. And if you look at that film, you don't necessarily go, now here's a guy that's going to win many Oscars. You kind of go, wow, I wonder how many people were injured in the making of this film. It's a lot of other things you think of other than that. And yet his drive and his, determination were such, and his strong interest and persistence again, were so great that obviously he's one of the greatest ever. I don't know if you've seen 13 Lives, but it's up for Best Picture this year. I think it's just a phenomenal movie, and definitely deserves the Oscar.
Yeah. No, Ron Howard is a name you see very often in the award categories and things like that. It's amazing to think that he sort of got his big break in Happy Days. It's two very different ends of the spectrum with that, but I suppose that's where talent and perseverance get you.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read his book. He and his brother wrote a duo autobiography called The Boys. It talks about their careers growing up and their life growing up, and it's just, I thought I knew their story. I had no idea. It's an amazing book, The Boys. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So moving on to another film that you were in, Battlefield Earth. Okay. So
of my many of my 300 IMDb credits, we decided to focus on Battlefield Earth. Very good. Go right ahead.
It's you probably won't get asked much about it, so that's why I brought it up.
Okay, fair enough. I enjoy it very much. It's a great story. Battlefield Earth is a fantastic novel. I had the honor of directing the audiobook version a few years ago, which won an Audie Award. I directed, over 100 actors in it. It's a multicast audiobook, very beautifully produced. Great story. I was very pleased to be involved with it at the time. It has come to be, not perhaps as respected as it should be, but it is a very earnest and sincere attempt to bring that story to life. I'm sure in the future, Battlefield Earth will make a fantastic limited series. it's a big, broad story, and it needed a lot more than what we were able to put into it in a feature film, in my opinion. But I think Mr. Travolta did a fantastic job, and it was very, very ambitious of him to embrace that project. And I think, I respect him for it a lot. I think he's a terrific producer, terrific actor, and just a beautiful human being.
I know it was very much a pet project of John Travolta's. Was trying to get it picked up by a studio for a long time. Is there a sense that maybe he got almost desperate trying to get it made in the end, and that maybe hindered it a little bit?
I don't think so. No, I mean, when you look at it, it's like a pretty wonderful film, and it was done extremely inexpensively, and nobody knows about that. But it's the cost of that movie was just because most people were working at a very reduced rate because they really believed in the project. I know I was. So, I think for the time, there's nothing wrong with that movie. You could do a lot worse than Battlefield Earth. It's a competent film. Roger Christian, the director, who had worked with George Lucas on the initial Star Wars movies, a pretty bulletproof bunch of people. So,
yeah.
So to go back to the impressions, if you were to try and teach us to do an impression, we had down who would you suggest would be the easiest to start with? But I know, obviously, as you mentioned there, getting into that character.
Yeah.
Who would you suggest? Like, how would you suggest starting out with an impression?
Well, for you, I think you'd want to tackle someone from your side of the pond for sure, because you've got a really nice, thick. What part of England are you lads from? Liverpool. Okay. Well, then I would take one of the famous ones, George, John, Paul, Ringo, work on them a bit.
Like Sir Paul. I mean, the thing about Sir Paul that's so great is that, he's, they start to mellow out now, you just talk about anything. And I've seen him in videos walking around Liverpool, just talking to everybody, I mean, there's plenty of footage, in other words. If you want to make a study of it, I think you just get on and, sort of, really deep dive on Sir Paul.
Yeah. I've seen you show like a tutorial of how to get Robert De Niro, sorry, and you sort of show how you can basically not like change your palette, but put your mouth a certain way to capture his voice, and I think that's mad.
Yeah, have you tried that?
No, I didn't try. I was watching it and obviously listening. Like, as I say, you get shock and awe. So I didn't attempt it.
Shock and awe. There's that word again.
I'm gonna say it a few times.
Pops up a lot. Well, the thing about voice work, and if you are interested, and most people aren't, but the thing about it is, it's like a musical instrument. You have to pick it up. You have to start playing it and listening to it and recording it, and immerse yourself in it and fool around with it and see what sort of things your voice can do. Just by sort of making a decision to change something, whatever that happened to be, and to kind of, see what the balances are, see what the limitations are of your voice.
See how low or how high you can go. If you bounce the sound off the top of your palate, like you mentioned before, or something like that.
And kind of monkey around with it, and see what kind of sounds you can do, because you might surprise yourself and go, hey, I didn't know I could make that sound. And by the way, that sounds like this person, and that's what I've done a lot of time, just by kind of monkeying around. I did that when I was a kid to make my friends laugh and to pass the time.
Yeah.
That ability to just change it so flawlessly there is just, it's incredible. Even just that little bit.
Yeah, well, it's just practice. It's nothing mysterious, I'm afraid. It's nothing terribly magical. It's just a lot of practice.
So you made a video that kind of went viral, where you used deepfake to do impressions. How long did that take you, and what made you want to put that out there?
Oh, well, I should say that the actual deep fake part of it, the special effects digital manipulation of it, was done by another person. It was done by a guy named Sam Head, who is over there in England. I think he lives in southern England now. And so he actually approached me, and he said, this is now going back quite a few years, and I was unacquainted with deep fake. I didn't know it existed. And he sent me a sample and said, hey, I'm a SFX artist living in England, and I'd like to collaborate with you if you're interested. And here's a sample, by the way. And he'd taken one of my videos, I don't remember which one, and he changed my face. Well, I was just stunned. I mean, I just didn't, when somebody sends you something like that, where, okay, here's your video, but you're really, Patrick Stewart or George W. Bush or something. And I'm like, oh my God. My wife and I, we just went, the hell is this? So I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to work with you. And I had written a poem called Pity the Poor Impressionist. And I'd done it before in Celebrity Voices, and it sort of sat there. It didn't really tickle people very much for some reason. And so I thought, well, maybe this would goose it up a little bit, And so he told me how to film it and how big my head should be in the frame and not too close and all that stuff. And I performed it on a video and I sent it to him. And a few weeks later, I got it back and I was like, boy, oh boy, this is crazy. And I think the reason it went viral, or one of the reasons that it really took off, was it sneaks up on one. For what, I hadn't thought about it beforehand at all. It was not premeditated, but the first 3 or 4 celebrities, the shifts in my face are so subtle that you think, I've heard from many people that they go, well, I just thought you were doing that. I just thought you could do that with your face.
Yeah.
They thought I could broaden my nose, make my eyes change color. I'm not that good. So it sort of eases you into the illusion, and then by the time you're like, well, this is kind of amazing, and then weird stuff happens, like a mustache comes out of nowhere, and I change my race and various other things that make it apparent that there's something else going on here. But it went viral on YouTube, and then recently we've repurposed it for TikTok, because the Chinese should be able to enjoy my entertainment as well. And it went viral there, even bigger. I think it's at 8-point-something million views, which is encouraging. And I wish I could do it all the time. I wish I could do it with my head. I wish I could suddenly make my ears jut out and swell my forehead and put hair on and off in a blink.
One thing I did want to ask you about was, you mentioned, obviously, you've known Ron Howard for a long time. And you've done an episode of Family Guy where you were voicing Ron Howard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did.
Is that a bit strange for you?
Well, I'll tell you what I do is, if people ask me to do something like that, and it's someone I know, like Ron, I ask to look at the script first, because I don't want them to take the piss. I believe that's what you say. So yeah, I looked at the script and went, oh no, this is just funny, and Ron wouldn't mind, because the last thing I want to do is insult my friend Ron Howard. He's been very, very helpful to me and my family, and I think he's a terrific guy, worthy of respect. So I didn't want to, there's an awful lot of just sort of nasty, critical joking that goes on in entertainment. And when I think when you're starting out, you're just hungry to do anything. And if something's in kind of poor taste, you're like, all right, well, I'll just do it and take the paycheck. At this stage of my career, I look at things pretty carefully. And if it's the least bit insulting to somebody or tasteless or not funny, and it's supposed to be funny, we're all supposed to laugh at it, I just pass. I just go, it's not for me.
Yeah. So last thing we want to do with you, we do want to learn some more of your brilliant impressions. We want to ask some of them.
Okay.
Some of life's important questions. So, for example, the first one, we want to ask Ian McKellen, what should be the goal of humanity?
The goal of humanity, well, I can't presume to dictate the goal of an entire race of people, you understand. However, I would say that it's a good idea to try to set a good example with whatever you do. So no matter where you are, if you live in a cave somewhere in, outer Mongolia, you may not have access to all the things that a modern person does, but you can at very least, for your cave mates, let's say, set a good example, don't you think?
That's brilliant.
That's incredible. So we wanted to ask Anthony Hopkins, what is love?
What is love?
love is a sort of a, well, it's a very a great question, isn't it? Love is, well, it's a feeling, it's a viewpoint, it's an expression of great admiration and affection, compassion, that sort of thing. I think we all have a tremendous wellspring of love inside. It's really, where do we want to direct that stream of affinity? Yes.
Unbelievable.
Robert De Niro, not the other one, but I said, why do we dream?
Why do we dream? Why do we dream? I think we dream because, well, in my case, sometimes, I'm have some sort of weird dream at night. I'm tossing and turning. I'm thinking, where am I? There's a monster, maybe, or a friend of mine, and he turns into a cab, and then there's cheese everywhere, and there's a bell ringing, and I find out it's my thumb. And I realize, I think about it later. I realize I had a lot of pizza late at night. I got to stop. I got to knock that out.
Would have known pizza had that effect.
So, Robin Williams, do aliens exist?
Do aliens exist? Oh my God, you're talking to one. Half your audience is an alien. I think they're all aliens. I mean, when you think about it, well, we're all from someplace else, aren't we? I mean, even David Crosby said it. We're all, specks of prehistoric carbon. So we've all come from some other place in the universe. We've decided to land here. It's sort of a clubhouse. We're all just sort of, trying to get along here on this crazy planet, this big mud ball floating around in space, third rock from the sun. And well, we're all aliens, and we're all aliens to the degree that we don't meet each other and make friends and figure out a way to communicate.
It's mad when you do, Robin, because it's just like you got to stop and listen. It's mad.
How I trick people to listen to me.
The last one for you is Joe Pesci. Would you break the law to save the loved one?
To save a loved one, would I break the law? Of course. Absolutely. What are you talking about? Don't be stupid. I mean, the law is there. The law is there to protect people, right? So they don't get killed, so they don't get hurt or robbed or whatever. So if somebody's getting hurt or robbed or whatever, I mean, you're basically obeying the law if you break the law. It's that simple.
That's just
amazing.
Incredible. Blows me mind, honestly. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been fantastic.
Hey, I just want, if I can put in a plug.
Absolutely.
First of all, for your viewers, go to my TikTok channel. And I'm going to be in a new TV show that's going to launch March 31st called The Big Door Prize with Chris O'Dowd, who's not English, but he's Irish, so close enough. And it's a swell show, The Big Door Prize. And that launches March 31st. Anyway, it's a fun show. I think your friends will like it. I think you'll like it. I'm just heading out to Atlanta in a couple of days to shoot some more on season 2.
Can't wait. We'll tune in. Absolutely. But again, thank you so much for your time. We know you're a busy man, so we really appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I hope when the next time I see you, we'll have worked up one of your Beatles impressions.
Don't be shy. Give it a whirl.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Cheers.
That was unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
That was crazy. Wow. Jim Meskimen, and well, other people. Jim Meskimen turned into everyone.
Various artists.
Wow. Jesus Christ. I need to process that, seriously.
Thank God you didn't bring me Heath Ledger impression up. I would have Corey Barnes it, man.
But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Fans of MMA, appreciate the love. So thank you for that, mate. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, because that was fantastic. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we've got a couple lined up tomorrow, haven't we? So
we have Bobby Pally 12 p.m.
That's an Instagram live with Just Kidding.
That's an Instagram live, yeah, which is for his upcoming fight at Aries. 6:30 p.m. we have Billy Adams ahead of his title fight at Kingdom, and then 9 o'clock we have Jack Hacksworthy ahead of his title fight at Kingdom as well. So
That's been that feels like it's been organised about 16 times now. So
it's mad because the one with Billy's been rescheduled more.
I know, yeah. Literally, this next couple of weeks is all about it. Literally, just going to be us getting the ones we rearranged from last week because our heads were up our asses with the comedy night and doing them now. So, but yeah, you get to see him 3 times tomorrow, but you only get to see me twice. But thank you, everyone, as I say, for tuning in, and we will see you all tomorrow.